Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for our recap of the race of the year so far. Maybe this will remain the race of the year when we do our end of season awards, brought to you by Join Cycling, even from the Netherlands.
Mate, I swear we've said that multiple times this year. The race of the year so far.
This one had Mrs. Rouge texting me saying, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? She was watching at the O'Connor's house, being like, what's going on? So it was crazy. Amstel Gold Race, we recapped the women's race. We've already watched that, of course. We recapped it on YouTube earlier, but this is the men's first and the women's second from Maastricht to Bergen to Blijt. Close enough. 256 kilometers long. A lot of short, punchy tarmac climbs, some big roads, some flat roads. And the Cowberg is back, baby. Now, we don't have Phil Gill style cycling anymore, but they brought the Cowberg back, and it's 500 meters at 9% before 2Ks of flat to the finish. But in between some of these, the Keuterberg and the Cowberg, there's a lot of flat terrain, and there's crosswind too. Some crosswind, so it really is for the, it's a perfect race. Has Remco done this before?
Ooh, I actually don't know if Remco rode.
Never in good shape.
Yeah, that's for sure. Never contentiously ridden this, that's for sure. But you said it. We had lots of great riders on the start line. Remco, Pogacar, nice plus Skelmo's a little trek, which is also new in my opinion. Outside of that, which riders were you looking at? Healy maybe?
Ben Healy looking good.
Bitters?
Yeah, pardon?
Pidcock?
No.
Ooh.
No.
After Brabantse?
After Brabants, yeah. I believe in Pidcock. I like Pidcock Estrada. He's super good. And he's won this race before, but in Brabants, that's a race he's won before in 21. And he was really on the level of, the other second-tier contenders, which isn't enough here. I was looking at EF as just an overall very strong Ardennes team. They got a great team here. UAE, I was skeptical. Like Tim Wellens is like from the Green Mile. Is that the movie?
Yes.
I'm tired, boss. Fucking Tim Wellens, man. He's been up riding. Let the guy have a break. He did opening weekend lead. He's been sick for a month. Poor bastard. It's because he's too versatile. This is why I should say to your rider, if you're a rider, just become a pure climber or something. You don't have to get sent to every race.
Choose a lane.
Choose a lane. Don't be so versatile. You have to do everything. Joining
you.
Sivakov, though, he was in good shape, but yeah, it's still obviously a very strong team. My question mark was, could other teams get on the move? There's other teams, I would say, with better second-tier favourites, Thibaut. Now, Skelmers, like you said, Van Aert, Benoot.
Before this race started, Pogacar was by far the favourite, right? We're talking he was going to win the race.
No.
Ooh.
He's $1.70, maybe $1.50.
I think most people were on the Pogacar.
No, he's the favourite. He's the favourite. But not like respect Remco.
Yeah, but even with Brabants in mind, before this race, I was thinking Pogacar's just going to win this race.
True.
I was expecting Pogacar to still drop Remco Evenepoel in this race. And whether it happens or not, we'll get to that later. Got to start with the early action in the race, though. Because the early action, we had a moment in like the first 15 kilometers where Pogacar was dropped. I don't know how or what happened, but he was behind with a bit of teammates for a couple of minutes. So not the end of the world. Came back, etc. Then we get later into the race, and I get a tweet sent to me that says Remco is 1 minute behind Pogacar. Turns out he was involved in a crash. He had a little wound on his elbow as a follow-up from that, had to come back from that crash. There were rumors by, I think, Sporza that said that Van Aert and Nijs were also involved in that crash. So the entirety of Belgium hit the ground in that crash, apparently, according to that rumor. Now, the Remco one, we are sure of that he crashed because he actually has a wound on his body. The other two, we don't know. But we quickly saw UAE Team Emirates taking control for Pogacar. But like you said, with some wounded souls. First of all, Wellens was doing early work in the race. He said before the race he would do that. Novak was gone pretty quickly. Narvaez crashed early and abandoned the race. I don't actually remember if he actually did some work or not. But the train was the following then. Sivakov, Grosschartner, McNulty, and Pogacar. And that's when I properly started watching this race. But what did you see from other people in the race?
Yeah, it looked exactly like Zurich. It really looked exactly like Zurich, and you basically have UAE are allowed to take control, and also they are super strong. Sivakov is riding a very hard pace. They also but they also weren't at a certain moment. So you could see before coverage started. Do we say who's in the breakaway?
I have no clue who was in the breakaway.
Michael Hessman and Cavagna were in the breakaway. Anyway,
okay.
In the first hill zone, the break, you see the gap coming down really fast. The fight for position comes. And then Hessman and Cavagna weren't caught. And Sivakov, there's no Narvaez, no Wellens, the lead-out guys. Sivakov's got to do a very long stretch, and he does a very good job today. But it's one guy, and you see he's letting this gap out to a dead breakaway. And there I was like, I mean, I was expecting riders teams to jump there with Bernard, Walter, Sheffield, Paulus, Scaroni, pick them from whoever, Baggioli, but they didn't. And also probably because you're like, well, I'm going to get in the group, and then UAE are going to ride 25 seconds behind me, and I'm going to go nowhere. So UAE, they did shut down the race very, very well. And the race didn't open up till much later than I thought, and it still wasn't open. And it's kind of a Poggy's a master in positioning, but what happens, it's like when Cavendish was describing, hey, you want to beat me in quick step?
Yeah.
Do your own lead out. If you fight 7 other guys for 2Ks for my wheel, then I'm just going to be fresher than you because you've been fighting 7 guys for my wheel and you might not even have my wheel. And that's actually what's happening. Everyone knows Pog Hammer coming. And so everyone's fighting 5 teams for his wheel. And then he's actually kind of kept fresh because also his team's doing an awesome job. I don't know what the solution is.
And teams with multiple leaders can't position every single one of their leaders in that same position at the front of their train in the wheel of Pogacar because it's... You said this as well while we were watching the race. It's not a simplistic train of, oh, you've got your domestiques in front of you with your leader at the back. It doesn't work like that when you've got someone like Pogacar up there who might make a move relatively early. You got to be with your leader relatively close to him. And we saw that in the run-in that teams were trying that. Some teams like Little Trek had issues doing that with multiple leaders. Nice was not the one that was close to the front of their train, that's for sure. Skjelmose was in second position, I'm pretty sure, though. But that being said, before we get to the Lordeberg, where the early action started off, during this race, I was munching on a fantastic barbecue because I want to get my fuel up for tomorrow's joint cycling training ride. How's your training going?
I'm back. People see I'm back on Strava. I've been in the mountains the last month, and now I'm back on the trainer as well. So I'm going to do the joint cycling recovery plan. And I know it. And listen, we don't want to do like the influencer thing where we pretend like we're always training year round. That's also...
No.
It's not true. Like, I'm like every other person. I have a bad month where I'm just stressed with other stuff or got other stuff going on, and I let it slide a little bit. But don't turn into 6 months.
Yeah.
And I stay generally active, of course. I have to, otherwise Toby will eat me. But I already know if I'm at a decent level, even with 1 month off, joint cycling recovery plan, 4 weeks. I literally did this when I was really out of shape in 2020, start 24 when Luke put me on to join. And within 1 month, I was already like, wow, I'm not flying, but me flying. I'm, enjoying riding my bike on a variety of terrain. Enjoying riding my bike, I would say. So I got to get in shape before the Giro because there's a challenge coming for the Giro as well. And so Join's got plans for everybody, not just advanced riders. Of course, they have them too, but also beginners. And yeah, I'm going to be getting back to it. And also, yeah, keep me accountable. Follow me on Strava and abuse me if you see me taking too many rest days.
Yeah, just abuse them all the time. That's the
people
way to
do
go.
Actually. People are pretty bad wasp, buddy. I'm like, fucking hell, I'm just spinning to watch the race and burn some calories. But no, it's good. It keeps me honest. Keeps me on my toes. But yeah, go and check out Joint Cycling through our link down below. You get 30 days free trial, not even a credit card required, so you can test it out. It connects with the Garmin thing in the cloud. Wahoo connects with all your devices. Listen, I'm a technology philistine. I can't use an email. Luke had to show me how to use Ethernet.
Yes. You didn't know what an Ethernet cable was.
Never used it before.
Anyway, back to the racing.
Well, I can use Join, so that's the end of the read. But yeah, I can use Join. You can use it too.
Anyway, the riders in the peloton also must have used Join because they were firing up towards the bottom of the Lordeberg. 55 kilometers to go, roughly. We see EF being the team that takes over from UAE Team Emirates, and gotta say, I'm loving it. Like, Ben Healy has been looking good in the last 2 weeks. It's really a Basque Country especially, and to see him come to the front so vividly in second wheel. Who are the riders setting him up? Was it Harry Sweeney, or was there another rider behind him?
It was Sweeney and someone else, maybe Baudin, but Sweeney's actually Tour of Flanders crash accepted, although, Crash Van der Poel, so made the race exciting.
Jesus.
Sweeney's been really good this year. From Tour des Alpes-Maritimes du Var, pacing on a mountaintop finish, to the Cobble Classics, to now the Ardennes Classics. He's developing into a really elite all-around rouleur, and EF were bossing it. They were bossing it, but then I don't want to. I have to. I always do it in the one-day classics. Get into what's the plan? What's with Healy? What's the plan?
Well, I think the plan is to make the race as hard as possible.
Okay. And?
To make people drop, which happened. And in doing so, reducing the competitive riders that Healy has to drop to get a podium.
Okay.
Very simplistic, and I'm not sure it's going to work, but at least we saw them on TV.
They were all looking at Healy, like the EF on the seat, so like, brother, I need you to jump now. I'm kind of done. And then he was like, I'm good here. Actually, EF, they've really come into good shape, and they're bossing it at the moment.
Man,
but yeah, I thought Healy was going to jump.
The plan. We got to talk about a team that did have a plan. It was not on this climb. Meanwhile, Maxime van Gils abandoned the race. Don't know why. Just wanted to get that out there. We get to a few climbs later. The mythical Hulperberg. Never heard of it before today. Always forget it exists. And in the last 8K, ever since that EF move, we've seen towards the front in like P4, P5, on the left side of the road, Mark Hirschi. On the right side of the road, Julien Lafilippe. Both in good position. I was like, okay, Tudor Pro Cycling is vibing. And they were vibing. We get to the Hulperberg, and Pogacar seems like he's wanting to do something himself, but on the other side of the road, there's an attack by Julien Alaphilippe. I got major flashbacks from 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago.
It reminded me of his Leuven attack.
Insane panache, to the point that he's dropping everyone except Pogacar on this Hulperberg towards the top. And let's be honest, in doing so, he kind of drops himself, but that's for later. This was an insane 7 minutes of pure nostalgic enjoyment of old school Alaphilippe.
It had everything.
I don't want anyone to criticize tactics. Where is he riding to? Is he riding to launch Pogacar? He's gonna drop off to this stuff like that. But I do have to give in a little bit. While it was super awesome, the next climb we arrive at.
Oh, but hold on.
Oh, la.
So situation. Yeah. Pogacar looked like that's a very steep punch. It's not a long climb. No way he actually could have countered Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe really obliterated that climb. And it's also, again, it's position. Poggy's in position. He's always in position. And if you're the first mover from being in good position, so that's why I was like, when Healy was in good position, okay, go now, because you know you're in good position. Maybe you won't be. Now your teammates have gone and he wasn't there, or maybe he couldn't follow. And you see, really other guys couldn't follow. And maybe they weren't on the wheel as well. And that's what I mean with Trek. If you have 4 guys fighting for one wheel, it was like, well, you actually just need Schelmoser on that wheel or Thibaut Nice on that wheel. So I was getting very depressed very quickly, Benji, because Alaphilippe was then in the flat section before the next climb, pulling full with Poggy. I was like, you don't have to do this, Julie.
Mate, that's your strategy, right? Like,
you don't have to do this. And then the group behind, Visma, 4 riders.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Tollett, Benoit, Wout van Aert, and someone else. Valter.
EF, at least 3. Paulus, Healy, one other. Trek, at least 3. Baggioli, Nace, Schelmoser. Jayco, 2. Schmid, Matthews. Quickstep, actually thin on the ground with numbers.
Yeah.
Immediately, the group starts like not cooperating whatsoever. And I'm not saying that Schelmoser needs to get on the front, but like there has to be a hierarchy in these teams, surely.
It took so long before Baggioli went to the front with what seemed like rolling attacks to then turn into pacing after it failed. It was unexplainable to me. Eventually, little Trek does some kind of pace for a little bit, but it wasn't like riders that are giving their everything to try and keep this group going. I don't know if it was the legs or tactics, but I feel like it might have been more tactics and hierarchy than legs in that moment of the race. But want to bring it back for a second. I do feel like Pogacar was suffering when Alaphilippe attacked. This might just be a very hot take, but
yeah, because Alaphilippe went crazy.
I saw gripping teeth, if that's even a word, when it comes to Pogacar on that climb. So I reckon peak Alaphilippe a little bit more, Pogacar would have been dropped. I'm saying it.
Yeah. Maybe Alaphilippe just waited and just used it at another time, because to get to the next climb,
he would have been dropped.
Probably, but maybe not. I mean, if you go that deep. But anyway, get to the next climb, Pogacar just accelerates and saddle, drops Alaphilippe, and Alaphilippe's out of the race. And he's like, I see Alaphilippe going back, and he's like he goes through to group 2, goes through group 2 to group 3, and then he's at the back of group 3 just chatting to everybody. I was like, Alaphilippe, you just ruined the race. And now you're yarning in the back of group 3. He's like, hey, not my problem anymore.
Give the man some credit. Pogacar did not drop Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe dropped Alaphilippe.
He chose to go back, yes.
He thought, I was too strong on this Hulkenberg. If I do this again, it's going to look weird. So let me get back to group 3 here. But the situation was as followed. Pogacar was off, and I was like, okay, 30 seconds. Pack up my things. Let's open up Pro Cycling Manager. Race is over. Dip out. Was that the feeling?
No, that's why I was getting extremely frustrated. When Poggy goes and takes the gap out to 1 minute immediately, like he did in Zurich, and even then maybe he could have been caught in theory, but not really, not trade teams. If he takes it out to a minute 30, and the other group is on its knees behind, you just have to say chapeau, and that is what it is. I was getting very, very frustrated because it was very clear that he was catchable.
Yeah.
With cooperation. And it was also more frustrating as well because one team believed they would try to catch Pogacar. One team. Quick Step. They put Van Wilde on the front. They didn't try to keep Van Wilde with Remco to try and help his top 10, get to in the top 10. Put Van Wilde on the front. Jayco, Visma, EF, Trek. Didn't help Van Wilde, who was, by the way, the gap was going out, but not that fast, with Pogacar riding against Ilan Van Wilde.
Very steady. 30-35 seconds. It felt like it stayed stable. Maybe it went up to 40 at a certain point, but you're right. It didn't go up to like 45 a minute, which you'd expect with the class difference between, no offense to Van Wilder, Pogacar and Van Wilder. It's a substantial class difference. To see him hold that gap, he was doing God's work at that point in the race. So I was super impressed by that. And the race continues. But the question is now, how long can Van Wilder keep this up? Because yes, he's starting to pace a little bit with 40 kilometers to go, starts to do that, whatever. With 32 kilometers to go, we've got the climb that is maybe the one next to the Kauberg that stays in my head the most when it comes to this race, the Keutenberg, which is a longer climb and therefore more of a longer effort, steep segments in it. Got that long, awesome helicopter shot on the side where you can see the riders move up that climb. Epic climb for the absolute broadcast, but I was expecting the Remco move to come there then, and that's exactly what happened. We see Remco moving to the front in that second group. Gap was still 35 seconds at this point at the foot of that Keutenberg, and Remco attacks, but the problem is...
I thought he was pacing hard. I didn't think it was an attack.
Honestly, I wasn't sure he had the legs to attack, separation-wise, because I hadn't seen it at that point in the race.
And he'd crashed. We'd always heard he'd crashed. Yeah. And listen, Remco's not like Pog. Some days he's magic, but some days in Zurich, inexplicably, he's kind of, just good, not special. And I was like, oh, maybe it's one of those days. That's what I was thinking, Benji. I was thinking, Pog has this because everyone is just going for podium. And that's, again, what I thought, and probably what he was thinking. Van Wilder's pulled all out, kept the gap to 30. Remco's taken the gap to 26 on the Keutenberg. It's going down. They're climbing faster than Pog. And then Schelmo's attacks over the top. And I was like, fuck. Yeah. I was thinking, just get a bit going. In the end, probably it never would have worked if he didn't, in the end, there was so little cooperation in that group that you had to have a smaller group ever chasing Pog. Skelly goes, but I think he was thinking there, I get ahead for podium, if you ask him honestly.
I think so as well, because at that point you're thinking, okay, on the climb, Remco didn't get separation. The separation, like you said, is the key to making it a smaller group that wants to work together, because up to this point, we had Visma riders, 2 of them, Benoit and Wout van Aert still in the group, and they weren't cooperating at this point in the race. Not one of them was offering themselves up for the other, and Skelmos and Nijs, they also weren't necessarily cooperating well. It was all quick step up to this point. So you needed separation if you're Remco then to get these others to cooperate with you from that point onwards after the Gothenburg. I should say it properly, not English-wise like you're saying it. But we get over the top, we get that Skelmos move, and I thought, I'll be honest, I thought this is not the thing I expected, or I kind of want Little Trek to do to be able to catch Pogacar. Because if Pogacar needs to be caught, it needs to come from cooperation of multiple people, not from Skelmos riding 5 seconds in front of the chasing group. So when Skelmos rode along, I thought it was stupid riding 5 seconds in front of the group. I'll be honest.
Nace is blocking the group behind.
What you want is multiple riders. But that comes later, because the race continues. And we get Remco attacking on the flat on one side of the road with 29 kilometers to go. And McNulty is still in the group. And he actually plays an essential role here, because McNulty makes it so that he's kind of chasing whoever attacks from that group, making it closed, trying to make Pidcock then close Remco to make it fall still again, the tempo. And that happens with 29 kilometers to go, perfectly done by McNulty. 26 kilometers to go, Remco does that again in a corner to the left, I'm pretty sure, gets separation. McNulty tries to come to the front again, but is not able to get that separation. And now, the Skelmos move starts to look very different, because Remco's coming, and there's now multiple people in the chase.
And now Skelmos will pull.
Yeah, 100%. It changes from an attack that looked like it was, let's try and secure a podium position behind Pogacar, to Remco and Skelmos together. The gap hasn't necessarily exploded to a minute yet. This might maybe be possible.
But the gap never exploded. This group, by the way, we need to go rewatch the tape. They attacked each other over and over and over and over. Healy, Van Aert, Benoit, Pidcock, Skelmos, they're just attacking each other. And the gap's not changing to Pogacar just riding probably at his threshold. Now, what was probably the case, what I thought was happening was, you guys have a window to close this. You're losing that window because Pog is actually riding probably within himself, I thought, to keep it at 30 seconds, and then he can open the taps as he gets deeper into the race. And actually, when Remco got to Skelmos, I was like, this is on, because Remco is going to pull all out, doesn't care about Skelmos taking 20% of the pulls. Skelmos, this is how to podium, guaranteed. That's what he's also thinking. I guarantee podium if I pull with Remco 33%. And 2 against 1. And also, I got to say, I was bitching about it probably 2 years ago. The motos were mostly in front of Remco and Skelmos, I think, for the chase.
I think they were balanced.
And they took it out. Pog barely had the moto.
In the second half, the moto changed to Pog.
Okay.
In the first half, it was in front of the Remco group. So we've been speaking about moto pacing. You'll see it in the women's segment that comes after this men's segment of the podcast as well, because it's very relevant in Amstel Gold Race and many races throughout the season. It influences the race in cycling, whether we like it or not. But we always know that the front group usually has the benefit of moto pacing. Today, it feels like it was balanced if I have to look at the two groups. Obviously, I didn't time it. I won't lie. I wasn't timing the moto pacing, that's for sure. But this was an epic chase of like, race is over. Race is not over. Race is over. Race is not over. I was like hand timing bloody corners in this parkour trying to figure out, because
it went second last time up Kalberg.
Yeah.
I thought Pog 100% being caught. They'd closed it to 11 or 12 seconds. They could see him, and I think that emboldened them too. And it's different to Flanders. These roads you can see further ahead. And you could even see Remco and Skelmos are talking to each other. Probably said, we can get him. Keep pulling.
But now on the next climb, and I want you to say the name of it with 17 kilometers to go. 17 kilometers to go. It's in the notes. Come on, say the name.
Evenepoel.
The gap grows to 20 seconds again.
Yeah,
and I was
Pog empties it on that climb.
And I was like, race is over again.
Yeah,
but you thought differently. You were saying like, oof, he's spending a bullet trying to expand it very quickly now.
I said this Pog spent his bullet. You could see because he's going too fast. Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that you would lose so much on Kauberg.
Yeah.
And Remco and Skjelmose are riding one pace, more or less. And you lose so much on Kauberg, and then on a very short, steep climb, he, in theory, if you could believe the motos, he gains 10 seconds. I was like, it's either wrong or he's spending a big bullet. Because the flat is what was killing him. The flatter sections, Remco and Skjelmose, like the aero bullet, he is the Mark Philippoussis, the aero missile. Like Remco, he killed Van Aert on Friday. He killed him on the flat.
What's a Mark Philippoussis?
He's called the Scud missile because his serve was so strong in tennis.
Serve.
When you start a point in tennis.
Oh, a serve.
Yeah.
Oh,
overhead.
I thought surfing as in waves.
Maybe he does that too. Maybe Remco should get into surfing.
Who knows?
The aero bullet was flying, and it was the flatter sections, and then it was unfortunately for Pogacar, the parkour is after the Bemlerberg, it was 10Ks to go, the gap was hovering, it's stuck on 10 seconds, and then there's 5Ks flat, crosswind, exposed on a bit of a plateau, and Skjelmose and Remco, you could see, were dragging into him. They didn't have a moto, but they were still closing it. You see Pog knows they're going to catch him. He stops to recover a little bit before they get to him.
Yeah.
Remco attacks straight past him and immediately actually has a gap, and you see Pog was in the gutter struggling to close it. And now, and by the way, the group behind was always on like 30 to 45 seconds, just attacking each other, whatever. Skjelmose and Pog, I think Benji play this perfectly. And I think Remco's not a good bluffer. Like Remco will try to, when someone skips a turn, he'll back you off to then make you say, oh, you close it. And he'll basically wait half a second and just close it himself. And it's like, well, they're just not going to, they're going to call your bluff.
It's an interesting dilemma because if you look at all three riders, it doesn't shock me from Skjelmose's POV that he says, okay, I'm with Remco and with Pogacar. These guys are going to see me as the underdog. Half of Belgium that is watching from Remco's side and half of the world in general does not know that I've got a sprint. So maybe these guys are underrating my sprint. So let me rest in their wheel and maybe they see me as already considered defeat. And then from Pogacar's point, I've just done a whole effort solo. So buddy, I'm going to relax in the wheel a little bit. That is also a point of view. From Remco's side, we do always say that, even in Brabant Sepel, that if you stay in Remco's wheel, that you don't get as much draft as you do from other riders, and therefore you're not as benefited from being in the wheel of Remco. But the problem for me is the half-weighing. If he half continues riding at the front and half waits for you to take over, but only does it for like 1 second, like you say, which means they will never take over, then you're not really benefiting as an Remco from your ability to be more aero than the others in your wheel, while you're also not getting them to ride. So you're not getting either of the benefits.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. Pog was able to recharge, but also Remco was still kind of working. And the reality was, what's Remco's biggest weapon in this whole race? He's unstoppable on the flat. If he has 5 meters, it's over. And Pogacar, as soon as Remco caught him, Pogacar's like, the only way I get a result here, I sit on Remco and I sprint him. He's not going to be able to drop him on Kauberg. Impossible. He knows that. He's not going to lead out Kauberg. He's got no one to launch him, and he's fucked. Skjelmose.
Have we like discussed the fact that Pogacar has been caught for how many times has this happened in a one-day race?
In a one-day race, I'm not sure.
I don't remember any
happened
moments.
On Pertus last year.
Did he not have in maybe Dwars of Vlaanderen or maybe Dwars of Vlaanderen in 2022 that he had like a complete chasse patate?
That was a different Pogacar. But
sorry, Skjelmose. Go ahead.
Skjelmose, and this is very like, first of all, Remco has just done a massive effort to get across. I know this is couch quarterbacking, but if he attacked Pogacar if he went to the back of the group, which he did a couple of times when they were rolling, and he attacked on the flat from behind, he would have won this race easily. Because Skjelmose was never, ever closing a gap to Remco for Pog. Ever. Skjelmose was going to sit on Pog and hope he brought him back. You saw that win multiple times. And I really think Remco would have gone, and even if he didn't go solo, I think it would have been cooking Pog more than him. And unfortunately, like Benji said, he gets caught in this mid-ground, which we've actually seen Vingegaard get caught before. It reminded me of Vingegaard on Juplin, Vingegaard on the next day in 2023. They sort of don't know what to do then. Oh, Pog's not attacking. He's sitting on. By the way, it's incredible how Pogacar, the best rider in the world, when he feels a bit fucked, he has no problem sitting on and making other people do it.
Yeah.
So, it's a tactic available to everybody. It's a legitimate tactic. He uses it. And they basically roll to the finish. And then I'm thinking, Remco's going to have to lead this whole thing out if he's not attacked on Kouberg. And then on Kouberg, I'm less confident he'll drop Poggy, actually, because his strength is being the aero bullet.
Yeah, but I also didn't expect him to try. Because if I look at all three riders, Remco's won in Brabantse Pijl from a sprint. He's going to trust his sprint. Skjelmose knows he's got a bit of a sneaky, nasty sprint that people might not know about. So he's going to trust his sprint. And look at Pogacar, and he's got nothing to attack on Kouberg based on the fact that he's got caught. So I'd expect him to also trust his sprint because it's the only thing he has left to try. So I was expecting all three to go to the sprint and just sprint it out. And like you say, it was always going to be Remco that has to do the lead out. And is that because of Remco's style of riding or simply because
he wanted it more
of Brabantse Pijl?
He wanted it more than them. He was just not willing to gamble as much as them. Skjelmose was still at 1.5k, 2k to go. Skjelmose was still riding for podium, by the way. When Remco really was like, I'm not pulling anymore at the end of Kouberg, Skjelmose rolled through a couple of times because he was worried about the group coming back from behind. And he only did it to the extent to keep that group behind. So Skjelmose plays this final perfectly. Pogacar plays this final perfectly from when he's caught. And Remco gets caught on the front, which is also okay. I expected Remco to win the sprint, by the way. It's still not like he's going to lose leading it out. The problem was they get to 275 meters to go. It's a flat sprint, and Pogacar hits him with the fake Hezi sprint, and Pogacar baits Remco into launching, and Remco launches him. Very strong kick. They couldn't get out of his wheel for 5-7 seconds. But if you lead out the best in the world or guys on your level for 10, 12, 15 seconds from a slow start, they are going to come around you despite Remco. Remco's pushed the most watts in this sprint. I guarantee it, but he went too early. Pogacar baited him. Pogacar's coming around. It looks like Pogacar's going to, despite maybe not winning in dominant fashion, he still gets the job done. And Skjelmose comes from the back and he wins the sprint to win Amstel Gold Race. Really huge upset. I think Pogacar would have been paying a cent to $1 to win the race when he was solo and the group was attacking each other behind. Maybe you think Remco can come back and win, but for Skjelmose to win, crazy win. It wins ahead of Pogacar, Evenepoel third. 34 seconds back is the group 2. Van Aert fourth. He does win the sprint ahead of Matthews. Louis Barret, by the way, huge season from him so far in Wanty. Gregoire 7th, Benoit 8th, Pidcock 9th, Healy 10th, McNulty 11th. And that's that main group.
Yeah, about that final, you said it when it comes to which riders had the biggest chance going into whatever, and the watts of Remco, whatever, all that discussion. It's also simply as unbeneficial for Remco that it's plain headwind, like it's side headwind going into the last sprint. So you know that if you're Skjelmose's position, which is then behind Pogacar coming out at the last second, beautiful. But I gotta say, I was just very happy that there was no actual photo finish necessary. Imagine if we get into another photo finish drama at the Amstel Gold Race. Wout van Aert still got a Pidcock second trophy hanging in his closet from 2021. We had Kwiatkowski and Kosnefra the other year where Kosnefroy was announced as the winner and then it turned out to be Kwiatkowski. I was just so happy that it was visible on screen which of the riders won the sprint. My eye test initially thought Skjelmose, but then the side shot made it very clear that Skjelmose was the winner. So that was nice to see. And like, overall, seeing Pogacar be human, good for cycling. Remco being good at the point where they're able to catch Pogacar in the final, good for cycling. Skjelmose, the underdog, winning in this scenario, good for cycling. Next to 2019, the best Amstel I've seen in my life.
Yeah, probably the best hilly one-day race I've watched in quite a few years. I can't remember too many good LBLs or Lombardias in the last few years. No. This was really, really excellent. And it sort of went from, it is hindsight, but of course we were saying it at the time, Benji, but it's like, hopefully this is a blueprint for the future that if you don't give up straight away, the laws of physics also apply to Pogacar. Now, it does take someone basically on his level to full commit, which was Remco. Remco was more or less as strong as Pogacar today. And we've seen that in the Tour de France. When Vingegaard fully committed, he chased him back on stage 11. And so, yeah, I just hope in other races like in LBL, people don't give up so quickly. Although I have to say, Remco's kryptonite is that Remco is faster on the flat than Pogacar. I think he is. He just is faster on the flat. Luke puts in the notes that Remco on NOS, which is the Dutch national broadcaster, Evenepoel said there was that he was good, but he lost a lot of strength chasing after his crash. Narvaez fell in front of him. I almost managed to stay upright, but his bike bounced against mine. Then I went over. If that doesn't happen, I might be able to come in solo. He said he had to chase for a long time to come back. So, yeah, it's not like Remco had the easiest race either.
But hey, that's cycling. Shit like that happens. You can have crash at the start of races. Much of Van der Poel crash in RVV. At the end of the day, we can't say whether that made the difference on the last Oude Quadremont. I believe not. At the end of this race, yeah, perhaps Remco could have finished solo if he didn't crash throughout the race, but that's not what happened, so we don't know. And I'm just happy we saw a fight in this race, that it wasn't just a rider doing a 50-kilometer solo in terms of Pogacar. I would have been fine with Pogacar winning this race as long as it's a close fight, because I just want that. I want to be able to enjoy a battle until the last second in races like this. So I'm looking forward to the next Hill Classics. Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday. We've got on Sunday Liège-Bastogne-Liège. So this is a perfect setup for that. I hope those races don't just become... oh, I just choked on Mur de Huy. What do you expect it to be a last climb Mur de Huy or a early attack one, or are we entering the weekly show territory now?
Entering the weekly show territory. Does Pog pull out now that he knows Remco is better?
Jesus Christ.
Well, he is.
But that being said, Mur de Huy I also don't see as like perfect Remco territory.
No. And I think the reality is also on the climbs today, probably Pogacar did all the climbs faster than Remco.
Except that one Kalberg.
Yeah, I mean, cumulatively. Like, if you add up all the climbing times, Poggy, when he was solo, did all the climbs much quicker than Remco. So, do you think this changes anything for Pogacar, Benji? Is he reluctant to go solo again?
Ooh. Yeah, probably. This might change the thought process of, for example, if we arrive at LBL.
No choice.
Well, he had a choice. He could have let Alaphilippe just ride off the front and be in the group, but then he might have been open to attacks from others. Yeah, it was a free lead out.
It was free.
Who am I to not take that?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it just gives hope to other teams. Oh yeah, anyway, very. It's good that, like you say, a non-Remco Pog Van der Poel wins a big race, even though it's not a monument. We'll see what happens in Liège, of course. Any other news from Amstel? I already shouted out Louis Barret. That's a very, very good result. You see the company he's in. Michael Matthews, of course, is quietly assembling a lot of UCI points.
Always winning the... Oh, he didn't win the second group.
No, Van Aert won the sprint.
Ooh. Resurrection of Wout van Aert. Is it me, or does Wout van Aert get better as the race goes on? If this is 300 kilometers this race, does Wout van Aert win?
I'm not sure. Anyone pull for him? So yeah, Gregoire looked good. Peacock looked okay. Healy attacked many times. Healy's got the unfortunate thing that him and Powers to get the result, they can't finish with the big group, and so they get forced into attacking. But yeah, good race. I mean, I was still surprised, Benji, I got to say, that at the lack of appetite to anticipate. Maybe UAE made it impossible, but I was so surprised that we were seeing basically everyone walking to the hardest moment of the race to the last hour to their deaths, basically.
Because at that point, we thought Pogacar was going to make an attack here, and half of these people, 95% of these people are going to drop.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, when Pogacar does this.
Yeah.
Only 2 people came back at the end of the day after a long solo by Pogacar. So prove your point as well. And that counts for the next couple of hill classics as well. But is it me, or it feels like the hill classics have been less used to anticipate before the important moments across the last 10 years in general compared to the cobble classics?
Yeah, I think it's just harder because the draft is higher, and it's true. Sivakov's riding at 60 kilometers an hour. It's you got to anticipate at 70 kilometers an hour. So
Luke says we forgot about the Van Barle anticipation group, but Van Barle forgot about the Van Barle anticipation group.
Yeah, I mean, that was off camera. I mean,
I'm not
that
having
group,
this.
I'm talking like a group of 2023 is what I mean, which Pogacar himself jumped in.
Yeah.
Different parkour, of course. So maybe it's just the parkour.
There we go.
Great race. Great race. Really enjoyed it. Now to recap the women's race, if you're listening on podcast players, but otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.